Hello, and welcome to the Akash Mehta and Friends podcast. We are back with another episode. This time it is with a friend who is dear and old and comedy. It is Saurabh Pant. Before we get into this podcast, once again, a quick thank you to all the AMF patrons who make this podcast possible. It is because of your money that we can pay an editor to edit the audio and the video. It is because you have given money that Saurabh's tooth gap is so gorgeously visible on camera. It is because you give money that you continue to get this podcast. Thank you so much for doing it. And I genuinely don't think we could have done it without you. Okay, now on to the episode. Hello, Saurabh. How are you doing?
I think it's a stretch to call this Akash Mehta and Friends because I don't think of us that way, you know.
Listen, lovers, friends, what's the difference? When it boils down to it, we're all. You look very tired today. Are you tired?
I'm just exhausted with the existence right now. I'm in one of those moods. So I'm just out of it. I'm completely out of it. This is a good time to be recording this because it's going to be like, sorry, I just have to close this thing because then people will start calling me boomer and all that shit. Which is like, you know what? This is one of those frustrations of mine, which is that this whole like, you are like this because you're millennial. Oh, you're boomer. Oh, I'm like, it's such a lazy fucking joke, dude. It is so
Yeah, they're
lazy.
easy.
Like calling.
They're just.
Like calling white women all white women Karen, or you know it's so fucking lazy, man. It's like I don't know. I find it frustrating.
I was talking to Tanmay on his podcast, and he said on my podcast he had come, and we were discussing this, and he said something that really changed my mind about it. He said all these people just want to be the funniest guy. They all just want their comment to get the most likes and all. So they are just going for jokes. Now, if you look at it as an open mic, so you're gonna get a fuck ton of first thoughts from most of the people there because they're not really comedians. I think that's where it comes from. I like this. Existential punk is fun.
Yeah, but I've been thinking about the fact that like there's so many. I mean that Instagram wormhole that you go get into, right? Of just following random memes and all that kind of shit. And I'm like, dude, some of these people are. I think the volume of the total comedy on the internet with comments and stuff like that is actually funnier than most stand-up comedy. And I think it's because there's multiple people contributing their best material to that one comment. You know what I'm saying? It's like the best comment in that website that wins. And I'm like, yeah, so as a comedian, it's this that your job is just to be consistent about it's your volume is with I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
I get you.
What I'm saying is volume is more than total surface area.
Okay, yeah, that always happens. I think because volume, I think. I get what you're trying to say. Like, अपने को consistently funny होने का ज़रूरत है. They don't need to be consistently funny. Because they have enough contributor. Like most meme pages are not making their own memes. They're just taking whatever is the best on the internet anyway. I mean but I don't think that's the thing, right? Like we were discussing this before the lockdown also. कि ये कैसे होना चाहिए, मतलब ये audience क्या है और क्या चाहता है हमसे. And I think on Instagram, I don't think they're really looking for jokes. They're just looking for us to get as you put it, know more about our lives, share more of us with them. But it's true. As as weird as it is, it's genuinely true. People just want to know more about us. So I don't think we have to be funny there. I think we just have to be there.
Well, I mean, so I've heard this theory a lot. Like even my managers, like this is one of the. So Sahil Shah, Atul Khatri, me, I forgot a couple, I think maybe Biswa and a couple of other people we went. And this is prior to the lockdown when everybody's having that standard existential crisis, which as a freelancer happens pretty much every 12 days. And we sat down with our managers. And when I went to the manager, they're like, you know what you have to do? You must, Instagram is a place for people to know who you are as a person. And you should put that out there. And I think that'll really help. And I discussed this with Sahil, and he's like, dude, they told me the exact same thing. Then I spoke to Biswa, he's like, dude, they told me the exact same thing. That's is this just a staple chapo where it's like, And I have realized that most people on Instagram don't want to know about me. Because when I go through, like, when I put out any personal shit about my kids or whatever it is, I just go through the shares, right? And the shares are like 2 or 3 or whatever it is. But when it's like about a joke, then immediately it's like 3,000. So I'm
But
like,
I
I
think
think
it's-
people just want to.
I think that's also because of your audience base. Like most of your audience base were those children 5 years ago. Like all of our audience base is so young, and especially on Instagram, it's so skewed towards young people. कि फिर वो it becomes invariable that they're not gonna relate to those jokes as much. Like when I so Prakash has an account now on Instagram, and
Yeah.
so I was just going through the people that follow Prakash because he doesn't allow you to. He has request. You have to request, and he's not accepted mine yet. But I was going through the people who follow him, and it's a subset of people who follow me. But he doesn't. I think he doesn't accept any kids. Like he only wants old people.
Yeah, but it's so strange, man. I think I've always been stuck in this dilemma for such a long time, where the jokes that I want to make are like not the jokes that I can do on stage.
What do you
Like
mean?
I've been stuck in this dilemma for a year now, where I'm like, oh, the jokes that I want to do. So it's getting to a very interesting point where I think I just need to make the shift to being able to do the jokes that I think are funny, and it'll find an audience again. Because again, the with the lockdown, the assumption prior to the lockdown was that अरे यार इतना content है, audience तो सबको खा जाएगी, तू जो भी डाल सब ले लेंगे, and my views have fallen like fucking nobody's business.
But that's all of our views, because now we are no longer competing with other people creating content. We are competing with Chahal on TikTok, and you can't. What is my live versus Kevin Peterson's live? I always say this. Like I don't want to go live on Instagram because all my favorite cricketers are going live anyway. I'd rather watch them than going live myself. Also, I think that's the problem. Like I
like
didn't think
this-
Yuzi would be a content creator in the middle of this, पर वो कर रहे ना डांस पूरा फैमिली, और वो है कंटेंट जो लोग को
But
देखना है.
it's so interesting to watch cricketers and they are like, भाई हम भी TikTok पे जाके content create कर रहे हैं, Instagram के लिए ये सब कर रहे हैं. And I'm like, I got to give credit to the fact that they're at least going out of their way. It's like me, like it's the old Mitch Hedberg joke, right? Where it's like, oh, you're an actor, can you farm?
Yeah,
Right.
or you're
Or
a
whatever that, I
cook,
forgot
can
how
you
we-
farm? You're a
Yeah,
cook,
yeah,
can you
exactly.
farm? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's literally that, where all of these people have discovered कि भाई मैं TikTok पे viral हो जाएगा, फिर उसके बाद brands आएंगे, and that's literally what happened. Like they're making crazy amounts of money.
Yeah.
What do you think of this whole? What do you think of all the joy that people are feeling? It's so weird how we like to validate our preconceived notions or our hatred towards something with whatever comes to mind. And that comes to mind with TikTok getting banned. Right now, I'm not a massive consumer of TikTok, but I'm fine with the content. Like barring all that stuff, obviously the bad stuff, which is obviously nobody's going to be pro. But for the most part, I'm like, this is people getting an expression, and what's the big goddamn problem? But there is this notion where people who just don't like TikTok are finding different excuses to be happy about the fact that the ban has happened. Where they're like security issue, or they're like, no, China, where they're like, I'm like, make up your mind which decision it is. Is it just coming back to the fact that you just don't like the goddamn platform, and that's why you just want to validate it all behind all these excuses?
That's pretty much it, right? That's always it. I think it's always about an opinion, and then you justify your opinion with most people. I think this is going to sound like a dicky thing to say, but I genuinely feel like most people just have never experienced joy. Like they just genuinely haven't experienced true joy. Because if you experience true joy, then it doesn't make you a closed off person. It makes you a more open person. If you experience true joy, you have gratitude, you have empathy. I mean, it makes you realize how amazing it is to feel that joy. And I don't think they do. And that's why they indulge in hate. Because joy नहीं मिल रहा है तो hate में भी वो at least kick मिल जाता है. And that's what everything is on the internet now. You're either this or that. Like yes or no, right? It's no... In fact, Black Eyed Peas had a song about this a few years ago where they detailed this exactly. But who would have thought Black Eyed Peas would be the culturally relevant thing here? But like, वो तो डर है ही ना. And you are you and I have known each other long enough for both of us to like I've seen your career going through ups and downs, and you've seen my career going through the slowly ऐसा धीरे धीरे चीटी के माफिक चढ़ते हुए. And I think
that's pretty convenient. Mine went through ups and downs. Yours तो just went ऊपर. हाँ.
But
ऐसा बोल रहा है? सच क्यों बोल रहा है?
तू इंस्टाग्राम फॉलोअर देख, अभी भी तू जीत रहा है. तेरे फॉलोअर्स और मेरे जोक्स. Sorry, I'm kidding. But although, you know, I was just discussing this with a couple of friends the other day. I would be so happy if I could get a ghostwriting gig for someone.
Like ghostwriting मतलब stand up या just generally?
Yeah. Whatever. I'll write your autobiography also. Like if tomorrow, say, you know, like you or Kenny or Uppal or anybody, they are like, hey Akash, I will give you 1 lakh, 1.5 lakh rupees a month. Okay, and for 1.5 lakh rupees a month, I will give them a special every year. And if they pay me 2.5 lakh rupees, I will give them 2 specials every year. That would be the best in my life, I think. Then सब ये सब लहसुन बिसुन सब छोड़ देने का, फिर सिर्फ खुद का स्टैंड अप करने का और इसका स्टैंड अप लिखने का. You know, because then all my time is being spent in writing stand up. Even if it's not for myself, that's still an important exercise. Like Wanda Sykes used to write for Chris Rock, you know. So similarly,
Yeah, but it wasn't so much writing. It was like it was like from what I understood with all these international comedians and all, it was like literally shadowing the person and like so Chappelle के साथ भी ऐसा होता था ना, वो literally जाके अपना 2.5 घंटा करता था किसी ओपन माइक के एंड पे और उसका एक बंदा रहता था वो जोक लिखते रहता था कि यहाँ पर ये बोला यहाँ पर ये नहीं बोला and it's just almost like a reminder and obviously punching up a little bit and all that kind of stuff. So I think that was what the job was, which is also a great fun job. I completely
great
agree.
job.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't know this is going to become a LinkedIn interview, yeah. So Akash, here's what I propose.
yes, please.
Given current budgetary issues, I will offer you up to 7,000 rupees per year. No.
अगर 12 भी बोला तो मैं ले लेता at this point.
But yeah, it's yeah. That
I don't
would
know
be a
why you
fun
drink
gig,
your
man.
beer from a glass bottle. You should always drink it from a steel container.
Yeah. It's more subtle that way. People don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I was just like.
Desi daru, it mixes with the steel.
Oh yeah. There's an oxidization process that it goes through. It's a chemical sort of reaction.
What did you study, Saurabh? Just as a...
That is such a that is such a good question with regards to it's such a nice slap in my face. It's very good
not a
question.
slap.
It's like, hey,
It's not a slap at all. It's just genuinely I wanted to know what you're studying. You remember we're still doing a podcast.
So I did my BCom and I did my BCom for the same reason most people do their BCom, which is that I wasn't cut out for science. I didn't want to do arts because there's that perception back then about arts where it's like tu arts karega matlab tu unemployed hai. Literally, I remember like when I was 1997, I think us time pe the perception was just so stupid where it's like only people who want to be unemployed do arts or women. There was like this thing. It was like full sexism ka next level. I had this conversation with an uncle at a party once where I'm like, I'm interested in arts. He's like, पर तुम्हारी तो arranged marriage नहीं होगी. I'm like, what is this weird response? And then I found out that right now on Instagram they put out all the cricketers' degrees and qualifications and all that stuff, and it's like 9th pass, 10th pass, 12th pass. BA and BCom, and
I
then
think,
all the South Indian cricketers are all engineers,
M-Tech.
and it is just it's so fascinating, dude. It's like such a I mean, it obviously means that the amount of time you have can be contributed towards education, but it's just that there is definitely a zonal divide with regard to education here and there.
Yeah, but then Ashwin has a degree but no spot in the team right now, so I don't know how to feel about that angle. Like, I mean, on some level, like I was watching this TED talk about sports, you know, and there was a guy who was talking about the bodies of sports persons and how they have changed over the years. If you look at sports persons from the early 1900s and late 1800s, doesn't matter what sport you're playing, the body type is same. But now you see, you know, a basketball player from a cricket player, asman jamin ka farak hai in terms of all attributes. So I think it's about that specialization also. कि मतलब नहीं पढ़ने वाला है ये लड़का, you know.
But
उसको
it's
सिर्फ क्रिकेट
also
खिलाओ.
it's very interesting that you mentioned this, but because also I think the bodies of comedians are changing, right? Like every like earlier the prototype was, I mean, I know he'll be fine with this joke, so I'll just make it. The prototype was Karunesh Talwar, right? Where we are all aspiring to be as funny as Karunesh Talwar and also look like Karunesh Talwar.
Dress
And now he
down
lost
as much
weight
as
and I was-
possible.
Yeah, exactly. And then, dude, I met Karunesh and he's wearing this really bright Hawaiian shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what happened? And he's like, my girlfriend chose this. And I'm like, this makes total sense with the kind of jokes that you do live.
Yeah.
With this happy vibe. And then he's like, death and government sucks. And old uncles are bastards. This is great. But everybody's
Do you
got it fit,
think,
man. Karunesh lost weight, Kamra lost weight, you lost weight, I've lost weight. Every fucking. There is very few like comedians because I think I don't know when this happened where everybody, Sandeep Sharma, Nishant Tanwar, every bloody person, dude, everyone's lost weight.
I think my theory is that like to give you an example of how I lost the weight. It's very difficult to be unfit and touring. Like वो stage पे फिर आता है.
Completely agree.
And I'm not fit, but at least like I don't have the extra 15 kilos to lug around. That itself becomes such a huge benefit because you can't. That's like with everybody, right? Like Kanye West है, Kevin Hart है. तुम कोई भी एक्टर को देख लो, वो लोग कितना भी ऐसा म्यूजिशियन लोग सब ड्रग्स बिक्स करेगा, पर सिक्स पैक भी है क्योंकि उनको उतना अक्ल है कि मतलब फिट नहीं रहेगा तो बॉडी एंड माइंड विल नॉट वर्क इन नाइस सिंक. आई थिंक दैट्स व्हाट द थिंग बॉइल्स डाउन टू.
Yeah, man. I remember I had done this show का recording once, and this is when I realized कि यार बहुत overweight हो गया मैं. I did one bit where I was jumping, and you know how it is when I don't have a joke, I jump, right? As
Yeah.
you know, that is my.
I thought it was screaming.
Jumping or screaming.
हाँ.
No, screaming and jumping, and also then occasionally I'll do the voice change, where I'll be like, "उसके orange नहीं है," and then people are like, "Okay, he's changed his voice, so there's a possibility this might have been a joke." So like we'll give him the benefit of doubt. You know, this is what I like about trolls, where they're like, "Yeah," I'm like, "मालूम है मुझे." I'm aware. You think I'm not doing this consciously? But anyway, I was jumping and I was recording this 3-camera setup. I forgot which where this was, and I see my man boobs jiggle upwards and my stomach get revealed, and I'm editing this, so I have watched this footage like 27 times, and I'm just looking at it like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this is horrifying. Like my boobs and my belly, and it's like I do that little one jump and then I'm tired after that. I'm like, this can't go on, man. It's too much.
Yeah.
And also, dude, like with me, what's happened is the kids. You gotta keep up with how energetic they are, man. Like I go down and play with all the kids in the building and all that stuff, and they play chore police with social distancing, which is very fascinating. Where it's like the rule is कि हाँ छू नहीं सकते, तो you have to basically go like if I reach 2 feet close to you, then you've been caught.
That's the margin where the whole game is played as a child, dude.
Yeah.
वहीं तो 2 फुट में
But
पूरा
क्या
गेम
करें?
होता है.
तो मैंने तो शुरुआत में क्या किया कि यार ये बच्चे वैसे भी एक साथ मतलब they are literally together all day. It's like I mean whatever, but I mean not whatever, but yeah, it's after a point what do? You know, so I literally was like I want to buy a long foam, वो जो एक foam का चीज होता है, and if I touch you with it, then it's like done. So I've ordered
Yeah.
it from Amazon to change my chore police game. This is where I'm at right now.
Oh, that's a fucking legit thing to do, man. Research is required in all
Yeah.
fields, you know. If people don't push things forward, they will never move. You have created a new way to enjoy the joys of chore police. Except, I mean, I don't know how they'll tackle each other with the foam. मैं तो पैर में घुसेड़ देगा किसी के.
नहीं पर वो ऐसा वो सॉफ्ट वाला है और बस मैं ही इस्तेमाल करेगा वो लोग. अरे वो बच्चों को कितना कंट्रोल करेगा यार. 5 या 3 साल के बच्चे लाइक मैक्स ओल्डेस्ट किड डाउन इज लाइक 7-8 years old. Like no matter how much you tell them, after a point they are just like yeah. So you can't stop them. So I think all the parents in all the buildings in all the cities in the country are just like we can't. It's whatever. The thing is that nobody's going out of the building, so that's a different thing. But anyway, what were we talking about?
It doesn't matter. Do you feel like your audience has grown up with you? Like this is like for example, when I was I used to do all these college shows for no money. virtually, you know, just to get on stage and go all over the country. And those people then eventually graduated and they went to companies. Or you know, first year students saw the video, became third year students, and they gave me festival. Or somebody went to a company, gave me a corporate or a brand deal or whatever. Do you feel like, because like you have gone from that phase to the other phase. The first time I met you was when you were not married and you were not, none of that shit was happening in your life. And now it's like all of this, the last 9 years have gone by. Do you feel like the people who were watching you 9 years ago are now grown up and still watching you? Or do you feel like with your increase in age, you want an older audience now and you're tired of doing dick jokes? I mean, nobody can be tired of doing dick jokes, but
I honestly don't know, man. I'm a bit stuck on trying to figure out like I think for the longest time I was trying to chase the audience, where I was like, यार मैं ऐसा show करेगा, and then people will be like, I can relate. You know, it was literally like that fucking which is a way to do it. There's no like, in fact, we've had conversations about this where you were like whatever.
what?
But anyway, the thing is that
I was like, whatever, what did I say? I don't remember this conversation.
you said I will release this video and I know it'll get a response from X people, and then I will release this next video and I'll get a response from this other demographic, which I thought was pretty smart. See, I have not revealed your trade secrets yet.
Oh, that's okay. It's all out in the open only. ऐसा कुछ है नहीं, सबको पता है.
So
In fact, that's why I
don't know,
find
man.
it so
I'm just-
amazing कि like लोग को पता है फिर भी कोई नहीं करता है. You know, they still leave it to chance. Like you can
Yeah, but
write it backwards.
it's like knowing somebody's got a hair transplant or silicone implants, right? Where you're like, हाँ मालूम है, but it's fun.
But it's different because the difference is that when they come for the live show, it's like, you know, that writing style is only for YouTube. Live show पे तो अपना ही दुकान चल रहा है ना, जो अपना original चीज करने का है वही करने का है. YouTube पे you are going to, like my YouTube has tended towards just being dumber and just being sillier as the years have gone by, because I realize कि नहीं है फायदा. क्यों मैं homeopaths के साथ भिड़ूं? Like it's not worth the trolling. And then they start getting Ayush wala people involved saying भारतीय संस्कृति पे हग रहा है. नहीं हग रहा है, मैं सिर्फ होम्योपैथी पे हग रहा है. But
पर होम्योपैथी भारतीय संस्कृति कैसे है? It's like German संस्कृति.
नहीं, वो लोग क्या करते हैं, बोलते हैं he hates Ayurveda and homeopathy, and then it becomes that. Because in one video
Yeah,
I
it's
asked कि इमली वाला की शक्कर वाला.
Dude, Doug Stanhope shared that video, man. I still can't get over that. That's like
And he still didn't do my podcast, so I still can't get over that.
But like this Ayush Mistry thing is such an interesting thing, right? Where it's like जब पतंजलि बोला कि भाई हमारे पास कोरोनिल है ये सब, and initially
Yeah.
people who criticize them, who are right, let's be honest, people literally same bandwagon where they're like तुम क्यों आयुर्वेदा के against हो? I'm like नहीं, I'm for good Ayurveda. I'm not for nonsense Ayurveda.
For real
like, I use
Ayurveda.
Himalaya products. Yeah, real Ayurveda, like Himalaya for whatever. It's like I use that regularly because I know it's had a positive impact in my life. Like I use it and it's like I use all that कुछ भी मैं अभी तो हिमालय का मैं ऐसे करता है like हाँ respiratory तुलसी I'm like ठीक है let's try it. Like because it's very like, and the medicine tastes so bad that you're like must be good.
But it's like it's the difference between having kadha when you have a cold and having an Advil when you have a cold. The Advil will have very quick effects on you. The kadha you should be having every day, and if you have it every day, then the likelihood of you getting a cold next time will also be less. I think that's the difference.
Dude,
between
like my wife was on a trip, right? So सुबह अपन लोग आमले का juice पीते हैं, then all the crazy health juices and shit like that. And I'm not exaggerating. Since the lockdown has happened, touch wood, it's like it's been pretty good health-wise, which is a rare thing to say. People outside are like, "Sale, how dare you?" But yeah, I mean, to come back to this whole thing about audience versus content, I don't know, man. I'm just trying to. You know what? I have a feeling that the breakthrough for me is going to happen when I know who I am and I don't give a shit. Like, I think you need to reach a point where I'm like, this matters, but it doesn't matter as much as I was giving it credit for. And that's when suddenly things start rolling. Right now, it matters a lot, right? Like, I'll do a show and I'm like, यार इतनी फुदकने की क्या जरूरत थी? क्यों इतना ओवर एक्साइटेड है तू? Just calm the fuck down. No, do your jokes. Like, don't get so like I did a bunch of shows on Zoom, and the first show तो मैं इतना बेकार में कूद रहा था, चिल्ला रहा था. And while doing it only, I was like, stop doing this, Saurabh. What are you doing? And then I saw the recording, and I'm like, why were you doing it? I was telling you, Saurabh, not to do it. Like having a conversation with myself. But it is a weird thing because I think like I don't think people are aware of how much stuff we did before everybody was doing it. Like whether it was the Ghantas, whether it was Outrage, whether it was Bottom Line preceding Outrage, whether it was Rant of the Pant, whether it was like every possible genre.
Even traveling
we explored.
pants. Like
Huh.
you were the first person with a travel show as well. When it came to Indian
Because it's an
stand-up.
easy thing, right? I mean, travel is right there. We're doing it so much. It's an easy thing to do, but it's like it was it was there, but
But
I enjoyed
that's the
some of
thing,
it.
you
I
know,
still
you-
like some of the jokes.
You're such a you're that's the I think the like the whole conversation is around first movers advantage for a lot of people, and I feel like in some sense it's like the first mover advantage applies as much to the first generation, but it also applies as much to us because I saw you doing traveling pants for all those years, and then that idea was refined into City, which is now like a nice stand-up game that I can play wherever I go. So it's like the benefit is for everybody. I hate it when like newer comics are like, oh ये लोग तो इतने साल से इसीलिए है, and I'm like चुतिया नहीं है ऐसा, क्योंकि attrition in comedy is like 85%. Okay, like less than 15% people make it and make a living doing this, and the fact that anybody is around for 9 years means they're doing something right. You know what I
There are
mean?
a lot of people who fell by the wayside, and I'm not saying that they were bad comedians or anything like that. But yeah, for the most part, it's like reinvention and all that stuff. Like again, I'm not saying I've never thought of myself as this breakthrough, fucking insane, amazing comedian. And by the way, I have genuinely full confidence in myself and my abilities as a comedian that I will be. Like I have absolutely, I genuinely know that. I'm not saying that this is something that I'm trying to put in the universe or any such shit. I'm very well aware of that because I love stand-up. And I think
Yeah.
that is the end, this thing for all of us, where it's like I love stand-up, and not only stand-up, I love comedy in any forms. And I know where I am, and I know, and dude, I don't think people are aware of like, and I was having this conversation with Kenny. Okay. Kenny was like, you know what, I won't name the comedians involved, but there was some comedian who was about to release a special, and 3 days prior to the recording, another comedian who was had been doing stand-up for about a year and a half told this particular comedian that ye kya hai? And Kenny was like, why are you even engaging in these people? Because the thing is, it's not like we are condescending and we are like, hey, we don't think you're going to be an amazing comedian. But until you've actually created a special, you genuinely don't know what it's like. You don't know the like, dude, Make India Great Again. Right? I had to change my show 27 days prior to recording.
Why?
I had recorded a whole set which was about like really intense. Like the entire show was supposed to be full, start to finish, political, which means BJP Congress, history of BJP Congress, campaigning in India, riots, ye wo ye, right? Just about, I just thought I should, because it's a bunch of organizations involved, and also more importantly, I completely understand and empathize with the organizations. Because India is a country where, with regards to legal stuff, you are going to be stuck in a quicksand of it for 11, 12 years. And I'm like, why should I force anybody to deal with that? So I decided that I'm going to record my set prior to the recording in Goa. I recorded the set, sent it to them. They're like, listen, it's fine. And them could be anyone you want in this story, whoever it suits your narrative for. And they were like, dude, listen, you can do these jokes, but what we predict is that the chances of cases coming at you are about 17.
17
and they pointed
cases.
out with the bits were, yeah. And the fortunate part is that I am actually glad they told me. Because even though the show was not as edgy or as 100% as I wanted it to be, it was probably about 70, 75. What did happen was that a few people I was talking about passed away. A few people had other issues. A few people, and it was literally like a point where it's like a lot of it was construed as religious and a lot of communal and all that nonsense. So I'm like, yeah, I'm glad they intervened, but I had to effectively rewrite my whole show in 27 days. I had to rewrite my entire stand-up special in 27 days, which
Should
is
they
like
not be-
40 minutes of new content.
See, that's what I find the weirdest about this entire process. The fact that they don't see the special before they commission it is the weirdest thing to me.
Now they do.
I hope, I mean, thank God, because you
Oh
know,
no, now they do. Now the process. So initially, what is happening was that Amazon were the first movers to this. Let's be honest, they invested a lot of money and gave a lot of us a chance and stuff like that, which is really cool. But initially, the thing was that they're like, these are the people who can get more subscribers to us or whatever it is, get more people into this whole thing. And they commissioned a ton of shows just purely on reputation and basis, seeing videos of the past. And like
Yeah.
that's why, like I did like 2.16 specials is the joke. Because I did 2 specials and then I did one with EIC versus EIC Outrage. And so they commissioned a lot. Now the process has become like no matter who you are, unless your name starts with a Das and ends with a Veer, you have to like. And he's also earned it, by the way. I'm not taking anything. I'm just saying he's earned it. I'm just saying that. I mean, dude, like you know what? Fucking this is what I find irritating. Whether you like or dislike Veer Das as a comedian, you got to give it to somebody who's just consistent. Who, dude, tell me which like, and comedians have tried, mind you, who have endured this whole Bollywood bullshit of having to go through all the. And I have seen Veer because I've worked with him for a long time. Dude, the kind of fucking nonsense you have to deal with, the sucking up, the random rehearsals. It's God, as a comedian, just stop. It's like, this looks like work. I don't want to do this.
yeah, and I think like whenever the criticism is there, no, it's always like this whole conversation of, oh, but he did masti zyada. I'm like, लौड़े करेगा ना वो, उसको भी पैसा कमाने का नहीं है life में. Like, how can you just take one incident from a person's life and use that to extrapolate the entire career of a person? कि like नहीं ये यही है.
Like my favorite thing about this whole nepotism debate in Bollywood right now, I'm like, how do you not see that this would happen with regards to nepotism? Like, how do you not see that this is a normal thing where it's like, हाँ उसका बाप 40 साल के लिए रगड़ाया, तो obviously once he's made it, he's like, हाँ मेरे बच्चों को chance दो. They're all hanging at the same parties, and I love people who are like, nepotism sucks and yeah and all that shit. And like India has 65% of arranged marriages. I'm like, you're using your parents. you're doing nepotism in your relationships. Like, go fuck yourself with your high and mighty bullshit about whatever.
A country with a caste system is not allowed to talk about nepotism.
Yeah, there you go. Jesus. So yeah, it's been a weird this thing. I you know what? And I'm sure you go through the same thing as well.
I do. I talk to you whenever I go through it.
Huh?
Like, I talk to you whenever I go through that zone. I remember like so many times we've been in the smoking area of Habitat and I'm just like, यार सौरभ मैं अपने आप के साथ सच नहीं कर पा रहा हूँ, justice नहीं हो रहा है. And you're like, अच्छा हट चुते बहनचोद. जाके jokes बोल.
Isn't that good advice though, where it's like जाके joke बोल? That is the end result for every comedian. जो बोल, joke बोल, चल.
Yeah, I feel like वो क्या होता है ना इसमें कि I think it's always been easier for me because I genuinely didn't want to do anything other than tell jokes. And everything else was always like a way to get better at telling jokes in some roundabout उल्टे हाथ से कान पकड़ने का situation. Because why would you, like, that's why I produce shows, because I want to, like, you know, that's the second trip, right? Like एक trip है कि jokes अच्छा लिखना है, दूसरा है कि अच्छा joke सुनना है.
हाँ.
Because if the entire environment around you is not a conducive one to write jokes in and to test and ask and stuff, like, you know, I'm so jealous of the comics from Hyderabad. I was doing an episode with Rajesh Sekhar a couple of days ago, and you know, लोग का कितना मस्त है. You hang out with any Hyderabad comic, okay? And after a gig, and he will get 9 calls from all the other comics from the scene, और वो सबके साथ पूरा set dissect करेगा बैठ के हर एक joke के साथ, और वो लोग को भी हर joke पता है. Do you remember the last time we were like that? We were like that back in 2011-12, where there were only 9-10 of us and we used to see each other all the time.
But also that's because of lack of stage time, no? Like I remember हम लोग करते थे ऐसा, sorry. Oddly enough, what used to happen was हम लोग ने एक show किया था Virgin Pants, right? We have a terrible name. Let's not get into that. But the idea of it was that we were like हम लोग को open mic करने का है regularly, and I'm not exaggerating. EIC initially was making no money. We were barely making money. Like the only reason we were running was because of like the first 2 years was just me getting corporate shows and trying to put the money in here and there. But we were making no money on Virgin Pass. We were losing like 2,000-3,000 bucks per show, and which is a lot when you're an initial producer, as you know.
Yeah.
So we started a thing where first what we would do is we'd screen people's jokes because we want people to come in to have a good time, not because we are like censorship. We are like it was never like ye joke mat kar. It was always like tum kitne funny ho actually, and we know we have a vague idea. So I had comedians going like, who are you to judge? And we are like, we are actually nobody. I completely agree with you. So don't do it. It's not a problem. I have no stress. Yeah. And then we started doing a bringer show. Bringer show means like you get one friend or whatever it is. Yeah. And it wasn't like we are like forcing you to do it. We are just like, we want to keep doing this. And I think sometimes as artists and comedians and whatever it is, you get so lost in the weeds of your own emotional and creative stuff that you don't realize the practicality of what a lot of this involves.
Yeah, that sentence could have ended at weeds and would mean the same thing. But yeah, that's what I completely agree. And people, I mean, there was a long period in this scene where everybody was so aggressive and so negative about everybody. The number of times I've heard the word fuck all. ये कॉमिक fuck all. अरे इसका नियत, इसका है वजूद ही नहीं है इस कॉमिक का. अरे पर वो बेच रहा है बेचारा 800 टिकट मर के यार.
But I think I like the place where we are at right now, to be honest. I think like most of the comedians who are doing well or who are funny in whatever format they are, whatever language they are, there is a thing where it's like, okay, I don't like this particular person's comedy, but I appreciate what they've achieved. Yeah. And that is like, I feel that we are, but like, I don't judge somebody's success or failure or audience. Like, unless you're doing like some, like, really racist, communal, sexist, whatever, those kind of jokes. I mean, I'm happy for you. You can still do that. You should be allowed to do whatever fucking jokes you want. But I'm just saying, maybe I won't like you, which is fine.
Yeah, you don't have to watch, you don't have to be everybody's fan. That's what, no, like, interestingly, I was talking to Bijoy Nambiar about the same thing, but with the Bollywood scene, you know, ki like, that difference of, we are not friends, we are co-workers in some sense, you know, that took a bunch of years for us to get, I think, as a community.
Okay, I got to ask you a question. I'll make a point and then I got to ask you a question. Okay. So this thing was that about, I just want to, like, it's very interesting about, like, so I started in 2008, right? And it was, I was opening for Veer for about a year and a half. And while I was opening for Veer, I was also writing for 3 separate TV shows and all that kind of stuff. Like, it was basically all things to make ends meet and all that shit. And then once I decided to go solo, which back then was like a big thing, where like, he's going solo. It's like, now this is like, yeah, we are all solo, we are stand-up comedians. Back then it's like, he's going solo. So I decided to go solo. It was very tough to get shows, man. You had to literally, like Kunal Rao and me, across a period of about 6 to 8 months, spent time flying to different cities, approaching random venues for trying to make stand-up happen. And somebody was like, we'll give you 5,000 rupees, and we're like, pay for our flights, we are there. And there was so much of that happening. It was like not even, it was like, and this was prior to Comedy Store existing, and even after Comedy Store existing, where you're just constantly looking for opportunities to keep making stand-up happen and stuff like that. It was quite a struggle. And again, I'm not saying that on the basis of legacy or whatever that anybody should be given credit, but I'm just saying that it's a very interesting thing. But I don't think a lot of people, I mean, oddly, this is a weird time to be talking about live stand-up being easy. But it was fucking, dude, just anyone giving us a stage, Gujarati weddings, whatever the shit, we're like, let's do it. But so yeah, I mean, and there is a case for, like, you know what, one of my favorite things any comedian has ever said was Zakir, where I remember seeing Zakir somewhere. I'm like, dude, that's great. I think probably the Tathastu or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I've forgotten which show. So I was like, dude, are you surprised by the response? He's like, नहीं सर, वो जो पहले जो response आता था ना छोटे shows के लिए, वहाँ पर बस 100 लोग response देते थे ऐसा. अभी जो response है वो बढ़ गया है और वो volume बढ़ गया है पर response same है. And I'm like, that's a very interesting thing where it's like, as a comedian, he's already figured out that this is who I am and this is what I'm trying to say, and it doesn't matter how many people are enjoying it. Which is quite interesting.
What was the question you were going to ask?
The question was this, okay, where I remember there was a point where you were considered by a lot of your peers to be irritating and annoying and all that kind of stuff. And you're aware
Oh
of this.
no!
I
As soon
remember I
as
was
you
having a
said irritating,
conversation
I have
with-
lost Panth. I don't know what to do.
No, but this comes to a positive thing, which is that I remember I was hanging out with
what-
some 3-4 comedians.
Wait. I completely lost the question. All I heard you say is
I'll tell you
your
the question.
peers used to
I'm coming to the
think you were
question.
irritating. Huh?
See, I just wanted to tell you that everybody thinks you're irritating, but aside from yeah, so I remember I was hanging out with a bunch of kids. This is probably like some maybe 4-5 years back, probably. I don't even remember. When did you start stand up? 2007, 2006.
2011.
11, sorry, that's what I meant. 11.
How
Right,
7 and
7.
6? You also have not started
drunk.
then. That's true.
On one apple side. So there were about 3 comedians, and everybody's like, dude, Akash is irritating, blah blah. And I'd hung out with you, and I'm like, he's not. What are you talking about? He's just a fun, sweet guy. He's just trying to find himself. Give him some fucking time. Why are you guys so judgmental all the time? And I knew you were aware of this, and I knew you were facing, like, I'm not saying it wasn't even like anything. I'm just curious to know how. Did you hear anybody say anything, and how did you come out of it? Because you obviously went through something, and then when you came out of it, you were immediately a sort of Akash 2.0, which is a very nice dude. You know what I'm saying? Like, without all the irritants that.
Yeah.
And so, what is it? What happened?
I think so this is what 3 years of therapy has explained to me. Ki firstly, to I think a lot of the irritating things I used to do would come out of like strong anxiety and insecurities. And the insecurities took longer to get rid of because that they came from not feeling like a part of the community at all. And the anxiety, thankfully, over the years, I was able to kind of rein in. I think a lot of people think the 2 years in Gujarat really helped, and they did, because in Gujarat there was nobody from this scene. It was a place to just grow and just become an adult. Because I started when I was 18. Like, you're not an adult when you're 18. You're an idiot at best. And I was not at the best. So I was worse than an idiot. So I think by the time I came back from Gujarat, that was already 2000 and I think 16, 17s types. So I think that really changed. I grew up and that helped. Another thing I think, and I wish it wasn't this way, but one thing that really made a difference was going viral to some extent. People change their attitude towards you when you start selling tickets. Producers become friends. Samne se call on, like, so that actually was that was the worst part of all of it. I wasn't so much annoyed at people being irritated and denying me opportunity earlier, but the fact that they only gave it once this happened was a little hard to. That's why I was telling you, it feels like a commoditization of a person. Ki I am not me. I am the number of tickets I sell. So that was a weird thing to get over, because you start thinking that everybody sees you as the tickets you sell, but then you have to realize that no, there are people who have to see you as the tickets you sell, because that's how they make a living, and then there are people who will judge you on the jokes you tell, and then there are people who will actually get to know you, and you can get to know back, and that's where that's the different relationship. So most comedians are contemporaries, some comedians are co-workers, some comedians are friends, and I think it was a blessing to kind of be like a fringe cast member of the scene for a while, because I didn't really get any of the infrastructure that a lot of other people got. So I just learned to make my own infrastructure. Right? Like,
Yeah.
I had to personally become
also-
a production house in order to get my stuff out there.
Oh, this is the Parthiv Patel scenario. Remember that episode of Breakfast with Champions with Parthiv Patel?
Huh.
Where Parthiv Patel basically says, where he's like, I'm at Saurav Ganguly at the airport, and I'm like, hey, I'm the top run scorer in the Ranji Trophy. And Saurav Ganguly is like, हाँ वो तो तू हर साल करता है. And he's like, oh shit, I have to do something more. And that's when he decided to captain the Gujarat Ranji Trophy team and decide to win. And then suddenly people started seeing him from a different point of view, where they're like, oh, you can also do that. But yeah, this
मैंने भी बहुत प्रैक्टिस किया है commoditization.
Commoditization thing. It's not necessary. I mean, I completely agree that there is a sort of success leads to friendship thing. Not even friendship. Success leads to people coming like, come join us on this table. And I know that because I have seen it in different shape of times in my career. And like Roshan Abbas, who's a terrific event person, and like, have you ever met Roshan Abbas? Interacted with him?
Yeah. Roshan Abbas came to a show once or twice. He's a very nice guy.
Dude, he is the calmest person I've ever met in my life. Like, he's just a calm dude. Like, every time I imagine a crisis, I imagine two people how they would respond to it. One is my friend James, who lives in Canada, and again, one of the calmest, most charming people I've ever met, and one is Roshan Abbas. So Roshan Abbas told me a story where he's like, you know, people think that they are not transparent, but they're so transparent because there's this lady who's a former VJ and blah blah blah, and he's like, I can tell by how my public perception is going by how she greets me in public. Because if she's really outward, then I'm like, oh, I think things are going well.
Yeah.
If she ignores me, then things are not going well in that particular year or month.
Man,
And
we've
there
all
is a-
met people who go and talk to the person with the highest follower count first. Like, you know, like room mein aate hi, they will gravitate towards whoever is trending right now. And then in the order of relevance, you will be spoken to, if at all.
Yeah, but you know what the weird thing about stand-up is that it's like all the people, I mean not all, I would say about 95% of comedians who've got videos that have gone crazy are hilarious.
Yeah.
They are hilarious. Like Bussie's last to be honest, I hadn't seen, I enjoyed the first two videos I did, but the third one with the water cooler in the hostel, I was like, this is
Crazy.
fucking hilarious. It is such a good bit. And it's the same for Upamani, it's the same for Zakir, it's the same, I mean, there's an interest to it, right? Where in Zakir's case, it's not about the hilarity, it's about the structure and the whatever
it's
it
the
is.
feeling
like
you
Tathastu
get.
was a great show. Yeah, it's a feeling. So it's still a different thing. And so I think there is a bit where it's like how funny you are. Actually, I mean, not necessarily. There are a lot of comedians who don't get that many views, you know, like myself, who are also kind of funny, but like.
I think but वही है कि the funniest comics are not on YouTube. I genuinely still feel like that because on YouTube में दूसरा क्या हो जाता है ना कि तुम्हें पता चल like you know what to expect on some level. But like last
Right.
Monday, every night on the Monday open mic, somebody comes and does a bit and you're like, my fucking God, this is the funniest thing I've heard this year. You know, so वो तो I mean I've learned better than to ever judge a comic by a video or by an open mic or by one show. Like it's always over a course of the years that you can judge a comic's comedy. Right?
So here's a question as a comedian, which is that I want to still come back to those 3 years of therapy because you know what I think when you came back it was like so talking about the commoditization stuff, right? I think it's also possible, which I think you've got to give people credit for, is that when a video of yours went crazy, a lot more people saw it, including comedians, because it's just coming on the timeline. And they saw the video and they're like, oh shit, I didn't know this guy was that funny.
Because they never gave a chance, no. People would just leave the room when I went on stage anyway. Every time I used to go on, and still do. I think most comics don't like to watch me. I don't think I'm a comic by any measure. And people just leave the room. I've seen it a countless number of times. At shows that I host and curate. When I go on stage, people just leave the room. It's ideal
But
smoke
is
break.
it because they've seen your bits before? Because if I've seen your bit before, then I will leave because I've seen that bit before.
Nah. I know. I wish it was that. And I know this because it's happened so many times that early, like I've gone through each theory, you know. It could be this, it could be this, it could be this, but it's not. It's just that they don't like to watch me at open mics or wherever. And I don't mind that at all. What I mind is when one of those guys will then come and tell me something about my stand-up. That's when I feel like a little bit like, fuck you. Like otherwise I have no ill feelings towards somebody walking out. But फिर मेरे को अगर तू advice देगा on the bit I just did. Like I've had people come and say, oh Akash, your stuff has been really dumbed down, no, lately? Like, who the fuck are you? Like you haven't seen me live in 5 years. You saw Susu, didn't you, motherfucker? Like, that's how I feel.
Yeah, but let's be honest. If you've seen Susu and come see your set, like, fuck, this guy's a dumb fuck, man. It's like,
But like, I think as a comic, I think Susu is one of my favorite bits because it was a writing exercise, not so much a video idea.
yeah.
But yeah, you were saying you were so yeah, लोग निकल जाते थे यार, लोग देखते नहीं थे और वो मेरे को
और
पहले से
यार
ही था.
बहुत कम कमेडियंस दूसरे कमेडियंस का सेट देखने के लिए रुकते हैं. इट्स वेरी फ्यू. लाइक आई कैन लिटरली काउंट द नंबर इन माय हैंड. द comedians people who stick around to watch other comedians stick around to watch are the following for me, which I've seen consistently. This is not based on my personal opinion, but this
Basi,
is what I've seen.
Upmanyu, Zakir,
Basi,
Karunesh,
Upmanyu, Zakir, Shrija.
Kamra.
Dude, I love Shrija.
Shrija.
Prashasti, Andy Regu for some reason. I always find it
Fucking
fascinating
Andy
to watch
Regu is
Andy
the
Regu on
funniest person that nobody knows about in this country right
stage.
now.
Yeah. But he's not figured out how to translate that into video format. That is the sad
But
truth.
वो उसका गलती नहीं है. I feel like वो प्रोडक्शन वालों का गलती है. वो इस देश के डायरेक्टर्स का गलती है. If any director can shoot this guy and capture what he's doing, I mean, it has nothing to do with. It's not his fault. I don't think that's his shortcoming at all.
Bijoy Nambiar. Bijoy Nambiar is the key. You should get Bijoy Nambiar. It's like, hey, listen, forget your Bollywood. This is guy called Andy Regu who does open mics in Warsaw. This is your next 2-year project.
But genuinely, if I could, if I had the money and the resources, then I would genuinely spend them to find somebody to capture Andy. Because my logic has always been कि, like what you were saying earlier ना, कि जब वीडियो आता है ना तो लोग टेबल पे बुलाते हैं, which I completely agree, and it's the most detrimental thing to art, to judge whether or not somebody sits on a table based on how many views they have. That's why I started Akash and Friends. The idea of starting Akash and Friends was that there are so many club comics in this country who genuinely give a fuck about comedy. Like, that's been the justification in my head. When you don't watch at least half the acts while you're there, if you're there and you're not watching an act because you want to go out and bitch and smoke a cigarette, you're not here to write jokes. You're not a comic. For you, comedy is probably a stop along the way, to something else that you want to become. You don't want to be a comic.
I don't necessarily think that's true. I'll tell you why. Because, like, for example, for somebody like me, it's not like I don't want to watch the stand-up. It's just that I have 1 hour away from my house to do all of this shit. So I literally need to do my set, watch the person before me, watch the person after me, and then just meet my friends who I've not met for like probably the whatever period, and also get feedback from them. So I'm honestly, I used to take it to heart about like comedians not watching me. except one of my favorite bits, one of my favorite moments as a comedian in the last 2 years is a very odd show. I think I might have told you about this. We were doing a show at Spotted Hyena was doing the whatever Chennai festival, comedy festival or whatever. So there was Kenny, Rahul Subramanian, Abhish Matthew, S.A., Nivedita, just full jhund of everyone. So we were doing the opening show, which was, I think, Kenny, me, and Naveen Richard, of course. So for some reason, right, it's just the show started 55 minutes late because of a tech issue, and the crowd comes in and they're just not in the frame because it's been 55 minutes late.
Yeah.
And the rest of the festival went well, but this particular show was just bizarre, right? So Rahul Subramanian, who's arguably one of the best hosts because he just the riffs with the crowd and it's fun. Just the crowd is just giving him like nothing. It's just, they are just like, we're angry, we don't give a shit. So I get on stage, I'm the second act, and in the first 2 minutes I realize that stand-up is not going to work. So I just start fucking around, and also crowd interactions are not going to work because Rahul is like them. So I just start fucking around and doing absolute nonsense. So audience is this way, and there's a wings, the stage wings are here, and behind there is Naveen, Kenny, S.A. and whatever, all the whole jhund. And I'm hearing the laughter behind like crazy, like people are losing their minds behind, and the crowd is silent. Right? And it's one of those rare moments where I'm like, which is very rare for me as a comedian. I'm like, usually I want to just make the crowd laugh, but this particular day I'm like, it's such a bad show from that POV that I'm like, I'm absolutely happy making the people at the back go crazy with laughter. Which is a very exciting thing. When it's like, if you make comedians laugh, it's a very exciting thing to do.
Yeah, वो open mic में होता है ना, comics पीछे में रहते, तो some comics perform to the front of the room, some perform to the back only. But I feel like the beauty of it is finding more and more. I mean, in the last 3-4 years, I found so many more people who are as obsessed with writing jokes as I am. And thanks to Akash and friends, I was able to give them a spot, like a way to record videos. The idea always has been कि लोग अपना अपना वायरल होके फिर खुद रिकॉर्डिंग शो शुरू कर देगा अपने शहर में, तो फिर और कॉमिक आएगा अच्छा, और फिर और कंपटीशन बढ़ेगा.
Does everyone know about this? Because I think it's generally an awesome thing that you do, which is that a lot of the number of comedians. So Habitat is a place to record constantly, and this is a shout out to you because I thought it was a very cool idea because I had the same idea myself, and then you did it, and I was like this bastard. But it's a great idea. But it's like there are all these comedians who are out there who are generally very funny. And some okay, name the comedians, and I mean this is up to you. Name the comedians who have recorded on Akash and Friends the weekend whose videos have gone crazy. There's quite a few of them. There's a massive long list.
Yeah, it's a lot of. We've helped produced over 50-60 videos now, I think, over the year.
Wow, dude, that's incredible.
So, and I think Saikiran's, I genuinely, though I don't keep track, Anuj keeps track, I think, because he's our DOP there, but I just like, it's not there yet. Like, I feel like
I know.
there's so many more comics that I just can't give spots to, and it breaks my heart. I'm like, मैं तेरे को कैसे करके दूँ? But it's, अभी तो कैसे ही करेंगे आगे, I don't know, but I can't wait to start Akash and Friends again. It's my favorite show to do, because it's like, my favorite thing about hosting in comedy is like it's the excitement of being like, guys, this act is so good, like it's so good, you don't understand, this is so good. And I love that, because in most of my life, if I go on stage and be like, guys, you have to watch Andy Raghu, they will not. But if I'm like, you have to watch Andy Raghu, and you know what, he's next, motherfuckers, and then they watch him also, and then I see it on their face that they get what I mean about how good he is, and that is the best feeling.
Dude, so what I do, which is a variant, which is not something which most comedians even want to do or like to do. But I think over the last few months and years, in fact, I think about the last year and a half, what I've realized, I did a show in Nasik. And we sold about 140 tickets or whatever it was. And I got in touch with a bunch of some Nasik comedians. Sorry, I said that if there are any people who want to open for me, let me know. So first there were 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5. And all 5 were just repeatedly DMing me on Facebook saying, sir, please let us come. There is no open mics. There is no stand-up in Nasik at all. Please let us just come. I'm like, you know what? I'll break my set into 2 halves just to allow everybody on board. And what is the exciting thing was that there were about 5 of them. 3 of them were like developing or whatever. They're trying to figure it out. There are 2 dudes who are genuinely funny, man. And it's there's nothing more like I've had Tarang Hardikar open for me 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
And that dude is just like I haven't told you the story about Tarang opening for me in Spade and Comedy Club in Pune, which is a beautiful comedy club whenever it starts up.
By the way, if you're watching this at home, Tarang is a comic from Pune. Okay, he's like one. Yeah, anyway. Go on. I think the photo of him will also come on screen.
Yeah, so he was opening for me in Spade Comedy Club the first time I saw him, and I was just like, he's basically like a really bendy version of Biswa. Like he's just where he's like, he's like this, and he's like a tiger. It's like it's just so stupid.
He does that, you know that. मैं भाव दे रहा है, मैं भाव नहीं दे रहा है, मैं भाव दे रहा है, मैं भाव नहीं दे रहा है. It's like it's like he's an animated character, like he's an animator, right? Like he's an animator. तो it genuinely feels like तो खुद को ही वो animate कर देता है, dude. वो half is linking and
so he opens for me in Spade, and I'm like, dude, anytime you want to open for me, please come anytime. I'm happy to have you. So I was doing a show at NCPA in Godrej Tata Theatre, and it's like a very hoity-toity room. Yeah. Because I didn't realize the only way you make money there is that you have to charge a ridiculous amount of money and the ticket price is a lot. So it's a lot of like, hey, hi, excuse me, I own the Tata Gardens and I have bought all of Baikala yesterday, and it's a lot of normal people also, but a lot of those kind of people. So so my opening act is Nivedita. Nivedita is like a classy person herself, and she does well and whatever. It's like the crowd is like, yes, jolly good and whatever. And then Tarang Hardikar comes and he's like, the tiger is like, it's like he's really selling it, and the crowd is just like, oh, what is happening? This is not classy. I'm on the side of the stage just laughing my head off. So it's so weird how as a comedian, like the first thing that you are constantly obsessed with is other comedians destroying. Dude, that is so exciting to watch.
Oh
Like
yeah.
other comedians kill, and if you find them funny, you're like, dude, this is like this is like a mind orgasm. This is so
dude.
nice.
And it's just when you're I usually don't get to sit in the audience because of my laugh, you know. Then people will turn and all of that happens. So earlier I used to sit in during Akash and Friends ka videos of other people, and then उसमें मेरा laugh unnecessarily गलत time पे आता है. But like there's that exhilaration of being backstage, looking from the wings, you know, and seeing that angle and just like getting a little bit of the laugh that the comic is getting. You're also feeling like ha कितना मस्त लग रहा है, कितना मस्त लग रहा है. One thing I love about the opportunities that we have now as people who can sell tickets is that, like, this is something that Rajashekar pointed out, ki, you know, Akash and Friends has been such a great way to meet and watch other comics that you would never have otherwise gotten to watch, you know, because there are comics from every city, you know, and I try to keep at least one, max two from each city. ऐसा जानबूझ के मैं अलग-अलग ही रखता हूँ. So it becomes a great point for people to socialize and see each other's sets and see what else is happening in the country. वो बहुत ज़रूरी है. जो अब जब तक अपने पास एक क्लब सर्किट ना होना ढंग का, तब तक वो नहीं हो सकता है. So these shows then become the places where people can meet other people and see more craft and see different styles.
Yeah,
Can you
but-
believe it's already been an hour and we forgot to take a break also in the middle?
This episode of the AMF podcast is brought to you by Gila Taulia. Helps to have the only conversation with your family in the entire day. कितनी बार बोलूं मत रखो गीला तौलिया बिस्तर पर.
By the way, I've slightly substituted this apple cider with some wine, so I'm getting double drunk at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wait, what? You mixed wine into the apple cider bottle?
Yeah, just to try and be subtle. And now I don't know why I said it. I was trying to hide the fact that I'm also. I mean, technically, it was half because, like, my wife and me have both been having a weird day. So I was like, "Do you want an apple cider?" And she's like, "Yeah, please, thanks." And then I gave her half. So I went half a apple cider and like half a glass of wine. It's not that bad.
I still had a bunch to discuss with you actually about
बोलना.
एक तो मेरे को ये तेरा आइडिया बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगा. So the fact that you've written all these books, more than the fact that you wrote the books, it was the methodology of just sitting and fucking writing a book where you would write a page a day types, right? Like that was how it was earlier.
नहीं पेज डे से कुछ नहीं होने वाला है. It's like if you actually have to finish a book, you have to write like मतलब actually it depends on the kind of book you write. ऐसा कुछ रूल नहीं है कि मतलब इतना ही लिखना पड़ेगा. But I used to write like some days I would write like 5,000-6,000 words. Some days it would be like 1,000 and it's great writing books. मैं अभी पहली बार नॉन फिक्शन किताब पे काम कर रहा है, which is very interesting because I am writing non fiction comedy writing. And I'm like, shit, all of these bits are great stand-up bits researched.
Yeah.
Right, because like I was writing about Vijay Mallya and I'm like, yaar, kitab hai. I can't just say Vijay Mallya, Kingfisher Airline. Like, there's got to be some insight.
Yeah.
And the insight I figured out was that about the golden visa in the UK, which is a very fascinating thing which very few people know about, which is that in the UK, I don't know if they still offer it. For the longest time, they would offer a visa where you could just get a golden visa for £2 million, and then you have to put £2 million in a bank in the UK or whatever the shit, and you could just come in and like criminals and stuff like that who had cases against them could just pop in. So like all this stuff and then researching the history of all the people who applied for the golden visas and all that shit suddenly made it like a proper piece. And so and I've had bits from like the book that I've written, like when I wrote Pavan, I've had both bits where I'm like, this is stand up. While writing only, I was like, this is a bit which fits into the book nicely, but it is also stand up. Like there was a bit where I wrote about how India should have, I don't believe in coalitions. Okay, my daughter has entered the room.
Hello.
Hi. Hi friend. Why have you entered my room, you weird person?
Hello.
Okay, I have to shoot her
I
out
don't
because
think she can
she's
hear
gonna
me.
break everything.
Nentara.
Nentara, go. Nentara, go. Okay. 1 second.
And the family is in now. Great.
I forgot to lock the door. 1 second. Let me
This
lock
is an
the door.
interesting trend. This is an interesting trend that's happening on Akash and Friends where You know, नीति का कुत्ता आया था, बिजॉय का बिल्ली आया, अब तेरा बच्चा आया.
बच्चे और उनकी एग्जिस्टेंस का रीजन.
Kids are just pets that will hate you eventually. You know.
I don't think so. I don't think my kids will hate me because they already hate me now. No, that's a joke. I think my kids will be fine. What the hell
Yeah,
are we
with
talking
writing,
about?
we were talking about how you approach writing and how you are doing non-fiction writing now and how it's different from writing fiction. I was also actually very interested in that idea of you pitching all of these books that you've written already as OTT ideas.
Yeah, so I did. I've written 3 novels. One of them first one was a book
Wait,
called
wait.
The Wednesday Soul, and huh.
I have them. You know my Wednesday Soul ka copy somebody has withheld.
Oh, I have an extra one. I'll give it to you.
Yeah. Even Under Delhi के बाद कौन सा लिखा था?
Pavan the Flying Accountant.
हाँ, वो वाला मेरे
So
पास
you know
नहीं है.
what?
बाकी
That is the most interesting thing for me, where I'm like, I do stand up to please people, and I write books to please myself. And I think that is a very interesting insight that I've just stumbled upon today, right now while speaking to you these words.
yes, many comedians
so
do
it's-
consider
it's
this show
very-
as therapy.
It is. Whereas you know what, and this is a testament to you. So usually when I'm doing a show with the other comedians, like for the most part, there is a little bit of anxiety involved. With you, I'm like, it's Akash, man. Gives a shit. Nobody's anywhere. 50,000 views will come. Who cares?
नहीं वो घर का कॉमिक
No,
वाला
but-
फील तो है मेरा.
हाँ, पर वो है. It is all credit to you. So yeah, I wrote Wednesday Soul, which is a story about what happens after you die, which is like a whole thing on the afterlife.
Yeah.
Then the second was
Which is
Under
my
Delhi, which
favorite
is
book of
about
yours
the.
also. It's also my favorite
Oh,
book of yours.
completely agree.
Yeah.
Completely agree. You read the whole book?
I've read all 3 of your books.
Oh wow.
I bought
Wow,
Pawan
that's
on Kindle, I think.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Pawan का physical copy नहीं मिलता है अभी.
नहीं है.
है? Because I had checked it a couple of times
Oh.
on Amazon, तभी नहीं मिला था. But yeah,
I think
under
initial print run was 4,000 copies, and then after that I don't know what happened.
वही I was talking to Puneet about
But,
this only कि ये किताब लिख के क्या फायदा, और वो बोलता है कि राइटर लोग भी सब पैसा स्पीकिंग एंगेजमेंट से ही बनाता है.
हाँ, like मैं तो बहुत कहानी speaking engagement नहीं. I don't want to name the author, but I was doing a show in XLRI, and you can technically Google and figure out who the author is if you have that much time. Where there was a author who was preceding us, and XLRI में मैंने 3 shows किया, so this was one of the 3 shows. There's an author who was preceding us, and what he said was, he told the XLRI guys, where he's like, pay for my flight accommodation and give me a token amount of some 10,000, 15,000 rupees, which is basically to pay off like all the whatever PE and all that shit. And all I want you to do is buy 400 copies.
Yeah.
And no 400 था नहीं, 400 तो कम होगा. 400 is 2 lakh rupees. Is it at 400 at 200? That's 80,000 rupees. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something like that. But it's like you buy 400 copies of my book, and that's how they keep doing these speaking engagements and pushing the thing. I tried that same strategy once, and they were like, "Sir, we'll just pay you," which is a
Yeah, but
big
you-
insult.
But I
They were
remember
like,
you
"किताब
used
नहीं चाहिए,
to,
मैं पैसा देगा."
but you used to get your books to your shows. It was quite cool, man. I am also quite looking forward to Prakash. He wants to make this chili sauce, so I think he's going to sell it at shows.
That's a fun idea, but see the problem is now with chili sauce is something that people consume. Now if somebody gets like some fucking problem later on, then Prakash is fucked. Which indirectly I think it might affect you also in some way.
I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I trust him to make stuff properly and all, like get the ISI mark and all. Like that's gonna happen. I'm sure he'll do all that.
You will get an ISI mark for your chili? Like actually?
Like whatever the thing is, yeah. Like we have that farm, no? So we've applied for like the organic license and all. Like उसका organic का sticker मारने के लिए you have to get a approval. तो उसके लिए we've applied.
Wow.
Yeah, food
So
standards.
about the book. So the way the thing works is that for the longest time I wrote Under Delhi. I wrote Wednesday Soul in 2011, Underdelhi in 2014, and Pawan the Flying Accountant in 2017. And 2020 will be my non-fiction book, which is oh shit, it's exactly 3 years each time, man. Oh ho!
Hey, wow.
Yeah, so it's 11, 14, 17, 20. Which is called Panth for Prime Minister. Or either it's Vote for Panth or something. It's basically me trying to pitch how I should be the Prime Minister of India. Or not. After you read the book, you find out because people are sensitive about everything. Anyway, so Underdelhi I wrote in 2011, and all these books are just lying and whatever. And been trying to get it done because Underdelhi I honestly wrote as a screenplay. I was like, I don't have time to write a screenplay. और उस टाइम पे OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स वगैरह थे नहीं. अगर तुम्हारा एक ही ऑप्शन था लाइफ में कि तुम्हें फिल्म बनानी है, और फिल्म बनाना उस टाइम पे it was like a horrendous experience where you literally took 3, 4, 5, 6 years to get it done, and then somebody would give you like 40,000 rupees and then disappear with the rest of your money, and then you'd be stuck. It's just a pain in the ass. So I'm like, it's okay, because with publishing what happens is that the numbers are interesting, where it's like depending on how famous you are, and if a recognized publisher takes you, you can get anything between like 50,000 up to 40 lakhs. मुझे कभी नहीं मिला उतना. The maximum I've got for a book is like about 1.5 or whatever, which is still fine because I'm like, it's you giving me money to express what I want to anyway say, so that's good.
Yeah.
I know people who got paid like advances of like.
They also get a cut of the royalty, I'm assuming, or is it like a flat? They just buy.
There's some stages where they're just like, we are giving you this, now fuck off.
Oh.
Sub royalty apna.
Okay.
Now, in my case, what's happened is that my royalties is about 8 to 10% or something like that currently. It's going to go up to more in the next one, but I have never, my advance has never reached the amount that I would get for royalties. So every time I get a statement from my publishers for whichever book, all 3 books I keep getting statements, it's always like minus 11,000. So like, I technically, emotionally still owe you this money, which you'll never get. So Underdelhi is being pitched right now to a bunch of OTT platforms, and I wrote the first screenplay, which was also an interesting experience because my producer, people were like, hey, we'll hire a writer to write this first episode, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll just write it myself. Because I was so insulted that they would hire somebody, and they're like, that was our intention all along, and I'm like, you fucked me over, well done. So I wrote the pitch, and that's also another process, man, because like the advantage of writing a book first is you've already done all the mental research you require to do.
Right.
Like a fiction, you know exactly where your characters are from, you know where this is going to go. No matter how good or bad your book is, you at least have a vague idea about all of these things. So when I wrote the first episode, it was just like it flew, because I'm like, I know exactly what all of these people believe in life. And hopefully if that gets picked up, then is when you actually may make some money of the book. But for the most part, writing a book is just about you. And the only reason, honestly, I got any amount of money from writing books was because I was vaguely popular, not because of the content. And that's unfortunately is the commoditization of everything, as we have already discussed. So you get money for people going like, I remember one of my publishers told me, he's like, you're publishing this? Okay. If you publish something else also, let us know. We'll publish it. I'm like, cool. That's a weird attitude. And I'm like, what about the content? They're like, we've not read it. And we went through 2 edits and whatever. But it's a weird. And also now the publishing industry is in this cusp where they don't know what's what. Who, like, barring Kindle, which is an electronic medium, physical books, I mean, very few people, less and less people who are younger are going to physical bookstores, which is why Crossword is now selling like hoverboards and scooters and toys and shit. So, and the apparently the number of their sales, non-book related sales, is like 60-70%.
Yeah.
So you're like, you're basically like a go down for Amazon right now, which is fine. So yeah, I'm shutting off my charging.
Okay.
So yeah. But yeah, that's about the thing about the books, man. It's like, it's a lot of effort, but it's great. I'm glad I'm writing the non-fiction because I think it's going to lead to something interesting comedically.
Yeah, I think so too, man. I think your comedy has generally tended towards being about more and more political things and more real life stuff. And I kind of feel like I enjoy watching you a lot more nowadays, like, because you had that middle phase where you were only doing the politics, and now I feel like you found a more middle ground also there. Like when you were doing when we were recording the traveling wala bit at one of the shows, that bit is just like it's just hilarious and it's everything. It's stupid jokes, it's smart jokes, it's act outs, it's all like, it's I now see you bringing together all the tools you've learned over the last 5 years and turning them into one this thing, like into one form and one narrative, and it is so good, dude. वो penguin वाला जो joke है ना उस या Antarctica जाएंगे, it's fucking amazing. It's just so out of it's it's one of those jokes where you're jealous, like as a comic, कि कितना easily कर दिया इसने. It looks so effortless, and I love that about watching you nowadays. Earlier, also, I feel what's changed a lot more now is that I get to watch a lot more people live because they end up performing with me somewhere or the other. वो एक बहुत सही चीज हो गया, which I feel very lucky for, because otherwise there is such a big gap, no?
Even the even the political content, right? I love Varun Grover, right? And I enjoy Kunal Kamra stand up and like Sridhar and whatever. I'm like, there's enough people doing political jokes, and also I've had to deal with like a lot of mental fuckery with regard to people not understanding what a fucking joke is.
Yeah.
Or the fact that you're coming from a point of view. So, like, even if you're doing an act out where you're like, oh, people will be like, and then they'll be like, why did you say, like, that's a problem. I'm like, no, the intent, like, I've thought about this a lot, okay? One of the theories I believe in, the only true place, and that is changing slowly as well, where you can actually have freedom of expression is the US. Because that is the only place in the world, and I know Indians are like so hyper patriotic, where we're like, how can you say fucking? There is no way you can make a South Park or It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia in India, and the reason is very simple. Rick and Morty in India, bro. Understand? Rick and Morty, कोई chance नहीं है. That's like we always and I'm telling you, I as a comedian, I know this happens very subconsciously to me because the amount of death threats and shit like that I've genuinely received, and I'm not trying to fucking go like give me emotional credit for fucking whatever. I'm just saying that it's been a lot. It's been, and so when I see Veer or Kamra or Grover or whoever deal with the amount of trolls that they do on a regular basis, I'm like, fuck, dude, the mental sort of strength you need to be able to deal with people constantly telling you to die and kill yourself and fuck off and fucking go to another country on a daily, hourly, minutely basis is insane to me. The reason I've stopped doing political jokes is not because I'm scared. It's just because also I got tired of being so angry. Like I was
threats ever gone to your family and stuff?
There was one guy who did, and we were going to file a case and stuff like that, and then it got really complicated where it's like there was some bullshit about like Ghaziabad police is like, we don't have a cyber police send, so you have to, like, it literally involved me having to fly to Ghaziabad 6 times. Then I tracked down the university he was working in, because I, like, all of us are cyber stalkers, we can figure out where you're working irrespective of what you're trying to say. I figured out which university he was a graduate of claiming to be a graduate of. I got in touch with the dean and I'm like, dude, this guy is doing blah blah blah, what the fuck is happening? And they're like, he doesn't study here. And after a point, you're just like, what do I do? And then there was like his mom calling me, and you're like, it's just the same shit. And you know what? And this is where I think, as a rule, we have to stop this bullshit of. You said this in 2016.
Yeah.
Like, okay, just to give you an example, okay, and this is an example where I think as comedians we may have gone wrong. Sunil Pal, okay, whether you agree or disagree with him from a political standpoint or whatever it is, he said whatever. A lot of comedians started tracking his old videos and saying that you said this in 2009, 2011. And I'm like, dude, the same, like on the opposite side, when other people attack you as comedians saying that you said this in and then you complain about it, you've lost all rights to say that when you're saying Sunil Pal said this way back then.
Yeah.
I just think that people tend to forget the fact that our opinions change and we evolve.
Yeah.
And there is a very high chance that even if you're
no
at the highest...
There's no room for growth. We
Yeah,
don't
people
account
just
for human
assume that-
growth anymore.
You said this way back then. Now you believe this for perpetuity. I'm like, there's a chance that, and you know what? I don't think people, and I know that this sounds really fucking stupid to say, and I'm probably going to take this back at some stage. But it's like, I don't think people understand the pressure of talking live to people in whatever format you're in, whether you're a comedian or a public speaker or a politician or whatever it is. Sometimes you get so carried away with either the momentum or you're just running out of steam. Like, I think I did an open mic with you on Zoom where I said something after a long time, which I was like, what did I just say? And you were like, yeah, what did you just say? And I'm like, it's just, I've not been on stage for so long that it just came out. And I think,
and also I think
we need to start giving
testament to the fact that you saved it very gorgeously. I think you managed to save it also, which was a very good thing you did. Which a lot of comedians would not be able to, and that would have led to a whole different trip.
Yeah, but again, the thing is that I think we need to start giving each other a little bit of leeway with regards to like what everybody, and I'm not just saying as comedians, I'm just saying like everybody as a rule is should be allowed to say without being like you're cancelled and we are going to file a case against you.
Yeah.
And there's a story of this guy, I've completely forgotten. Shit, man. There's a dude who did a lot for. You can Google the story if you want. Where he tried to do a lot for the not the rights, but he spoke up a lot for Tamilians in India. And then I think at some stage, you can Google this. This is a story which you can find out very easily. Where he said something about, and this is a fucked up statement which he made. Where he said, this is a politician, where he said that Indians, we get along very well with black people because we have good relationships with South Indians. This is what this guy said. I've forgotten his name. And so people were like, what the fuck? This is a terrible thing to say. I completely agree with you. But a lot of the comments were also people saying like, no, he's actually stood up a lot for Tamilian rights. And I think he basically screwed himself over in this particular situation.
thoda hak diya
And I think we
ladka.
just need to start being a little bit more, not, again, I know the word tolerant is not used a lot, but we just need to start understanding that, okay, here is the thing, Akash, okay, boys' locker room, right, it broke out and everybody immediately went out there and said that this is
Nasty as shit.
And I'm like, you know what, I agree with you. I think it's whatever, but wait for everything to come out. Because if the entire, what's been happening since 2018 has started is that there are a lot of really screwed up men out there, and I can't believe they've been getting away with this shit. There are fucked up men in every goddamn industry, and I can't believe they're getting up with this shit.
Yeah.
That's one, and completely irrelevant. The second is that an accusation doesn't make you a criminal. Because everything is not out there. And so even with Boys Locker Room, when it broke out, the story broke out and everybody went like, how dare they and all that stuff. I waited because I'm like, I don't know the full facts just yet. Let's just calm down. And the story got worse and worse and worse. And I'm like, let's wait. Just have all the facts in front of you before you start going like, this suits what I want to say. And hence I'm going to... And one of the reasons why there's multiple reasons why I've stopped doing political jokes is, and I've not stopped, I'm still doing them. The reason is, one is it made me very angry. Just the stuff
To
that
constantly
happens
be
with regards
exposed to what's going on in this country is very upsetting and very infuriating. Yeah.
And I know that there's a situation where it's like you can say whatever you want and great, that's great. But after a point, it's just that I could not be in a happy frame of mind as a person, getting so angry about all of this stuff constantly. So it started affecting me, and it was like it's been a weird time since a while. Like since about 2019.
This is an interesting thing you've said, because I was recently having this discussion with my mom and dad about the Kamra and the Arnab thing. And there were a lot of views exchanged and all of this and that. And for my parents, it's like, this is wrong for you to do because you should never accost someone like that. If Arnab does it, he must have had a good reason. But Kamra should not be doing it types, And then my mom, like my dad and I got into it pretty, like, it became pretty heated. And then my mom just like laughed and she's like, you know what's funny? I don't think either of them are happy in real life. And I don't see how it matters if both of them are unhappy. It doesn't matter who's right because they're both gonna still be unhappy at the end of the day. And it's just like, and then she's like, and look at you two. Now you're both unhappy because they are unhappy and they had a fight. Like, what is the point of any of this? I say, fuck, that's too real, dude. If it was that easy.
No, I think Kamra and Arnab are pretty happy in life. I think again, one of my favorite stories with regard to attention and power. PV Narasimha Rao, right? Prior to becoming Prime Minister of India, he thought his career was over, right? So he went to the US because he was dealing with I think, I don't know if it was a heart thing or whatever, he was dealing with it. And he was really unwell and all that kind of stuff. And the second he was offered the PM's post, suddenly all of it disappeared. So I think the more traction you get, the more people are listening to you and stuff like that. After a point, I think the mental weighing of happiness versus sadness sort of dissipates. And it's so interesting. The Arnab versus Kamra thing is such an interesting thing of happiness because I think both of them on either side have equal number of people criticizing and agreeing.
Yeah.
And so they're like, yeah, we're pretty balanced. When you think about it, the most balanced people in India is Kunal Kamra and Arnab.
Yeah, there's no punching up or down with the two of them. They're both punching sideways. Except, of course, Arnab has a few more zeros in his bank account, which is I think in this country makes a difference because otherwise how to. वो मेरे को बहुत डर लगता है, you know, like and that's I think what I've realized with this therapy also is that is one of my major anxieties in life, you know, कि मतलब मेरे घर पे दरवाजा भी कोई जोर से खोला ना, मेरे दिमाग में there is a small part of me that worries कि ये लोग मारने आए. Because the threats to family have been so many. And it's the worst, dude. Like मैं तो किसी को भड़काया भी नहीं है, मैं तो होम्योपैथ लोग के साथ भिड़ रहा है. Like वो लोग ही बोलते हैं तेरा घर जला देंगे तो कैसे चलेगा यार. मतलब वो लोग क्यों बोल रहे तेरी माँ किधर काम करती है हम लोग को पता है. Like it's like what is the point of this, dude? Like yeah, and it's the worst, dude. Like you don't even know, and that's what I realized. I think the only way out for me is to just not pay attention to it until and unless I need to make a reaction video or something. But like other than that, just don't read them. So and then that's that balance, right? Like I'm somebody who reads through all the Instagram messages and replies to as many people as I can. But now I can't because that carries the inherent risk of just fucking half of it being trolls. And even people who are well-meaning are sometimes not the best, you know, in what they do and how intrusive they become.
In what way?
Like, I mean, I've discussed this in the last 3 episodes also, but like when Sushant Singh died, for example, you know, I was the one getting messages, don't kill yourself, you know. And that's not what I need to hear right now. Like,
yeah, but can I tell you a weird story?
Yeah, and I think that's a great weird story to end this also on.
Yeah, so I did some shows in Canada ages back, like 2014, and this was like I wasn't prepared to be doing. I shouldn't have been doing international shows, and I did a series of shows in this place called Yak Yaks. Didn't get paid. Please understand. This was all
Yak Yak. Where in you were in Vancouver?
Mississauga.
Okay.
Mississauga. I was doing some open spots and shit like that. So there's this guy who's an Indian comedian, and he came up to me after the show. And I tanked because I had been told that there's going to be an Indian crowd. So all of the jokes I had was like Madu Guju and all that shit. So I did my entire Madu Guju set in front of a crowd which was like basically white and black people who are like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because I didn't know, back then I didn't know how to improvise and change my set. Now I do. Back then I was like clueless. Did my set, the guy comes up to me and he's like, hey man, you know, stand-up comedians have the highest rate of suicide in any profession in the world, which is apparently a fact.
Yeah.
And he's like, after that set, you must be contemplating it. And I'm like, fuck, that's A, very good punchline, and B, go fuck yourself. Because I've come many kilometers to come perform here. And I'm like, and so you know what, I think it's, I do think there is a genuine fear amongst all of us, specifically with regards to the lack of predictability in our
career paths.
Yeah, like this is another theory that I have, that I think the difference between liberals and people who are conservative is the career options that they take. It's almost driven by that. Because if you're choosing to be an artist, the chances of you being open-minded is considerably higher, because you are like, whatever comes, we will accept it. Whereas
Yeah.
people who have a proper job are like, no, this is not supposed to be part of the PPT.
Yeah.
It's so that. Anyway.
But yeah, I agree. Punit does this joke, and I think I can tell you the joke on something that will be telecasted, because fuck him, it's about me. Whenever I'm hosting an open mic, no, Punit will come on and he'll be like, Akash for years has been talking about killing himself. And after 9 years of listening to the jokes, I am a little disappointed that he has not managed to execute.
See, Akash, you understand how this is a hard joke to laugh at right now these days, where it's like, this is the thing where it's like, you can't even laugh at this joke anymore.
No, fuck off, I can't laugh at this joke. I'm so tired of people telling me how
No,
I need to
I'm
be
saying,
dealing
I'm
with
saying
my,
we can. We can, because I think, like, this comes to the crux of the whole thing, which is that I don't think people realize, like, okay, I was making jokes, the second COVID broke out, I was making jokes. Right? Because that is how some of us deal with this shit.
That's how we process
That is-
the world around
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there was a friend of my wife's who just started slide tweeting me saying, these comedians making jokes during these stuff. I'm like, this is my way of dealing with it. I'm not coming to your house and saying, hey, listen,
Yeah.
your bullshit empathy police that you have about being empathetic about every goddamn thing is infuriating me. And it effectively means that your empathy matters to zero, because you can't empathize with everything. That's humanly impossible. I'm not shitting
Yeah.
on that stuff. So let me deal with it. And again, I didn't say something like, I hope you die with COVID. I never said that. I just said that I was just making
just wished
jokes
it.
to try and like, yeah, I wasn't saying anything untoward. I wasn't saying something controversial. I was saying stuff which is like just helping a lot of us deal. Like, dude, the funniest tweet I've seen is this guy called Sargasm, I think is his name. He's like seeing the different numbers across the world with regards to COVID, and India's response, and it's just a screenshot of the movie Hindustani, where it just says sabse aage honge Hindustani, right? And it is such a basic joke, and I laughed at it for 12 minutes. I'm like, this is technically it's about death, but it's a
Yeah.
funny joke because it helps me deal. It gives me joy as a person. It gives me some fucking laughter. So stop being so goddamn judgmental about like the fact that I'm laughing at something.
Yeah, dude, I have been doing experiments in this space for a lot of time. I say things that are straight up fucking depressing to hear, and people always laugh because they know we're not laughing at the situation, but that's how we're dealing with the knowledge that has just been presented to us. It's like when you find out someone's died and you smile, man, it happens because you can't process the degree of sadness, and sadness and laughter are like, crying and laughter are two sides of the same coin. They are both extreme involuntary physical manifestations of how you feel. You don't, I mean, at least as a dude, though, it is an effort to cry. And something really needs to move me to cry, because I've been conditioned to not cry as far as possible, right? But with laughter, किसी को कभी नहीं बोला हंसने का नहीं. You see this change when you go and perform at a corporate, जहाँ पे लोग हंसते हैं पर ऐसा मुंह रख के हंसते हैं कि किसी को दिखना जाए मेरे preferences क्या है.
हाँ.
Right, and it's like it's just the same sides, right? Like you would hold yourself back when crying, this guy is holding himself back when he's laughing, and it's the same shit. It's just how we process things. That was the biggest problem with COVID. I don't get on stage. I don't know where to tell the things that I'm seeing and thinking in my brain all day, and it becomes very crazy to stay inside the brain all day then, because these thoughts are especially with anxiety. Like anxiety and depression are a voice, dude. They're a very strong voice in your head, and unless and until you say the ridiculous things you think out loud, and then people react to it and are like, of course this is ridiculous. See, everybody says this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Shut up, voice in head. This is ridiculous. Unless you do that, it can become very, very dark, and it's a very scary place to be. So thank fucking God for jokes, dude.
Yeah, I mean the dopamine rush or whatever, I don't know, whatever.
नहीं वो है ही नहीं सवाल डोपामिन का है ही नहीं यार. मैं बस बोल रहा हूँ कि वो तुम just the feeling of being understood, the feeling of not being crazy. I think that's what it is for me. Like it's just, I'm not crazy. You guys no, this sounds crazy to you to write like it. I'm not the only one. And then that acceptance happens almost.
But there's so much of mathematics involved, right? Where it's like if I see, like, I think Shrija did some joke when they were doing some roast or whatever, where she did some very unpredictable. And even when we did your Akash Mehta roast, my favorite roaster in that Akash Mehta roast of yours was Andy Regu. Because he was doing personal weird stories and it was just so stupid. Where I was like, he wasn't exactly roasting, he was just being like, "Arey, why like this?" Like, that was sweet, right? And I think it's almost like I think comedy or jokes as a rule are like mathematics for your soul, where it's almost like, oh, that's an interesting, I didn't see it that way. So I think for the most part as comedians we're just like, oh, I didn't see that, which is.
But I think it's like
I
would
didn't see
say
that coming.
There is as much math in everything we do. Like in just merely the act of speaking, your vocal cords are vibrating, your lungs are pushing air out, your tongue is doing very complex movements in your mouth to reproduce the words and make your lips are doing. So there's a lot happening, but you don't really think about it because it's just taught to you and it's a physical thing. Comedy is just like learning to speak again, in some sense, because you're allowed to talk, but in a specific way that leads to a specific outcome. So you can talk about anything you want as long as you can get this outcome. So it's like an improv game, where you're like, ये round में ना scene बनाएंगे पर सब लोग एक लंगड़ी करके करेंगे. It's like that. Comedy is that, and restriction leads to more creativity. When the church used to ban minor chords in the Middle Ages because they were the devil's chords, that gave composers an opportunity to think of more unique new ways in which to do it. And the difference is that a composer could work on it and then make it, and then whatever would happen, and there would be a due process. Here, it doesn't matter whether anything you do breaks the rules or not. Everybody is judge, jury, and executioner, and everybody has a voice now. So the person who didn't like the one line...
No, go ahead.
No, so the one guy who didn't like that one line now and has the stupidity to judge you based on that one line not only exists, he always existed, but now he just goes and it's out there.
My wife was telling me this way. So my wife does yoga, okay, and her yoga instructors and stuff like that right now are all on Instagram and Zoom and shit like that. And she's like, listen, after a point, like, it's just that even they are getting trolled. They're getting randomly trolled. Like, one guy who's like one of the top like Ashtanga teachers in the country is getting trolled like, "Teri tond kyun hai?" Like this kind of stupid shit, right? "Sale mote, tu mujhe sikhayega," like all this kind of nonsense, right? And she's like, I think it's a lot where people are just so, because we've been locked in effectively for 3 months, and like unless it's like threats and harassment and all that kind of stuff, for the most part somebody. Or just untruths, right? For the most part, it's just that, like one part of me is like, you know what? Did that help you? Did that help you during the lockdown to abuse me? Did that make you feel better about yourself?
Yeah.
If it did, then I'm happy for you. If it didn't, then question your life choices.
That's what I agree.
So yeah.
That's an interesting place to end this podcast.
So I just want to say, Akash, I wish you the best of luck in life. And thanks for calling me on this esteemed podcast. And man, you're a good dude and you're a nice man. And I'm glad we're friends. And I'm glad you gave me mangoes, which my wife was very impressed by. And I think both of us should stop constantly questioning how everything's not going well. I think things are okay.
Things are not so bad.
Yeah.
I think. Okay. That's
joke bol chuti hai.
That's a great note to end this on, man. If you've been listening and you have made it through this mammoth 1 hour 45 minute-ish podcast with no break, congratulations and thank you indeed for indulging us as we indulged one another, and not even with our hands this time. Thank you so much. This has been Akash Mehta and Friends. I'm Akash Mehta. That was Saurabh Pant. Saurabh, say bye.
I'm Friend. Thanks a lot, guys. Susu.
If you're watching this at home, remember, if you are not yet an AMF patron, it is cheap and it will help us create more episodes. Please feel free to go on over to the link in the description. You can become a patron. Otherwise, you can just go to kuchbimehta.com and you will find all that you need to do there. Thank you so much for listening. Until next week. Tada, bye-bye.